The New Jersey Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Belvidere Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted with the Star Ledger and Express Times, and submitted to the town clerk of the town of Belvidere on January 9th, 2020. Due to the public health emergency in the state of New Jersey, as declared in Executive Order 103, the board will be holding this meeting virtually and suspending some of its normal meeting procedures this evening. Specifically, board members will be participating in the meeting virtually via Zoom. In addition, the virtual meeting will only be live streamed for members of will only be live streamed for the members of the public. Directions for accessing the live stream were placed on the district website, www.belvideresd.org. We very much welcome input from the public. Because this meeting is only being live streamed, public comment will be handled as follows. The public can email comments to be read during public participation to rtjalma@belvideresd.org. Public comment on agenda items needs to be received by 7 p.m. and have public participation number 1 in the subject line. The public comment that is not related to agenda items needs to be received by 7:30 p.m. and have public participation number 2 in the subject line of the email. I need a motion and a second to pass a resolution pursuant to bylaw 9310 to suspend certain meeting procedures as described in the notice of meeting, specifically to authorize board members to participate in the meeting virtually and limit the meeting to a live stream with public comment to be handled as detailed in the notice above. Can I get a motion and a second?
Motion. Second.
Anything, Eric, yet? Cut off or?
He's texting me right now.
Okay. Time for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
To the flag
of the
United States of America,
And to
to the
the
republic for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty
and
and
justice for all.
Okay, shall roll call.
Mr. Blum? Can you hear us, Mr. Blum? Oops. Mrs. Bocchino? Dr. Zuppeth?
Here.
Mrs. Costantino?
Here.
Mrs. Pell?
Here.
Mrs. Duckworth?
Here.
Mrs. Scott?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mrs. Steffen?
Here.
Mr. LeBar?
Here.
Mr. Lucas? And Mrs. Williams?
Here.
Okay, guess we'll do number 1, public participation, shall?
I did not receive anything on agenda items.
Okay, no closed public participation then. Correspondence?
I do have just a quick email from Stephanie Deck, thanking the Board of Education.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
For giving her the opportunity to serve as a substitute teacher.
Can you read that again? We couldn't hear anything. Sorry.
Okay, it's an email from Stephanie Deck. She thanks the Board of Education for giving her the opportunity to serve as she's not deciding to accept the position for the 2020 school.
All right, so we heard she thanks the Board of Education for something, and she's not accepting something.
Did you hear me or not?
She's our substitute caller, and she's not gonna remain on as our substitute caller. Stephanie
That's
Deck.
what we need to hear. Thank you. Anything else? Anything else, Joe?
That's it. Is that any better?
That's what, hey.
Okay, I switched internets.
Oh, that is better right now.
All right. That was it. Just Stephanie Deck is resigning as our sub-caller.
Okay. Chris, Superintendent's report?
Okay, I got a few things just to mention. First of all, I know it's on everybody's mind, our reopening and our reopening plans. We are, as I like to say every meeting, waiting for the guidance from our commissioner and from the governor. There's a large rumor that update will come sometime this week. We did have a reopening committee meeting yesterday morning. We did talk a lot about some of the ideas that are getting floated around, and certainly some of the rumors that are getting floated around, but nothing concrete at the moment. The other issue is that, in case I did mention to the last meeting or previous, the commissioner has resigned. He'll be leaving his post July 31st. So I think that's also part of the holdup. I do know that the commissioner had to submit his reopening plan to the governor by the end of last week. So we are expecting at some point this week we will get, well, I shouldn't say expect, we're hoping at some point this week we'll get a little more clear guidance about what reopening will look like come the fall. I know there's a lot of rumors floating around, but as of the moment, none of those rumors are substantiated in any way. So we'll just wait and see what is released. I've said a couple of times in meetings in somewhat of a joking fashion, the governor loves to release that information at between 3 and 5 o'clock on Fridays. So I guess they can all walk away from it, and then we get the emails and things like that all weekend long. So as soon as I do hear anything specific on reopening and what that looks like, I will absolutely get that out to everyone. The one update that did come out at the end of last week was the beginning of the return to sports or return to athletics update, which I did share some information with the board. I also shared with you a draft of something Mr. Bartow put together that we'd like to get out to parents either by the end of this week or early next week. Just basically, it's more so to get these students back out and getting them conditioned more so than beginning any actual practices. So if you take a look at what the guidance was, it was more on just getting them out on the fields, getting them running around and getting some aerobic activity. Non-contact drills are allowed as long as, they're not in groups of more than 10, and the coaches keep them somewhat separated and somewhat social distance. So Mr. Bartow will be sharing all that information with our potential coaches for the fall, because we think fall is where we're going to go. We're, again, not 100% sure with that. And I did send out discussion about having a meeting on the July 15th so we can appoint coaches. If we want to do that meeting earlier, I think that would be fine. The earliest that they can begin the conditioning is the 13th. So if we wanted to meet sometime that week before so we can approve the coaches, I think that would be good to do. I also will say that when we do have another meeting, Ms. Scott suggested, which I agree with, maybe we go back to the meeting in person. If anybody is not up for coming, we can have them call in like we did the meeting in March. I think the number is, I want to say 25 indoors right now. So I think we can do that successfully. So just throwing that out there. So hopefully, Mr. Bartow was going to get back to me. He was at a conference meeting this afternoon. And hopefully they were going to have some more guidance as to what sports were going to be played in the fall. But I've not heard back from him. As soon as I do, I'll let everybody know. Shifting gears, Monday night, this coming Monday, we have a feasibility committee meeting with all 4 cluster groups, 2 members of the board from each cluster, just to begin the process and have the discussion about feasibility, what consolidation may look like, and what everybody's interest is in on that. So looking forward to that, just finally start that conversation and see where everybody's mindset is on that. Shelley, do you want to talk a little bit about both the energy audit update that you sat through yesterday and then the money savings from the shutdown that the town had requested information on?
Yesterday we had, it was a closeout meeting of the energy audit that they performed. They went over the suggested recommendations. The biggest thing where we might have some energy savings for us is mostly with our lighting. We did do that, I think it was about 7 or 8 years ago. They went through and they upgraded as many light fixtures as they could at the time. That was cost effective, but there seems to be some more now with the LED lighting coming along. There were some other recommendations, but some of them had like a 40-year turnaround before you would make any savings on it. So the next step is to figure out, can we afford to do any of that up front, and what our other funding options are to get that project rolling? Because right now we can get 40% rebates, but those rebates come over like a 1.5-year rolling time. So you somehow need to have the financing to do the project to start with. So they had at least one recommendation on that, so that's the next thing we gotta try to follow up with. The rebates are available through September 30th, now that the fiscal year has been extended for the state. So that's something that we're gonna continue looking at. As far as the shutdown savings, the finance committee did meet and discuss the estimated shutdown savings. There was estimated savings from not needing substitute teachers since we were virtual, from security, assuming that we are not going to be billed by the town for March through June, transportation, for athletic and field trips that did not occur, game officials since spring sports didn't happen, a little bit from things like Stokes not happening, the high school play being canceled. Unfortunately, we didn't have play receipts. And there's probably something minimal for utilities, but I wasn't able to estimate that just because the buildings were still open for some purposes. So I really didn't have a way to gauge, you know, if we did have minimal savings from utilities. But with all those things together, I estimated around $88,000 that we saved. And the only thing that we specifically turned around and decided to spend was the saves that were from athletics, as well as some saves that they had made throughout the year to try to do some upgrades to our weight room in the 1920 school year. Otherwise, those savings go in with the rest of our budget, where we're trying to do as many things as we can ahead in the 2021 budget to allow ourselves some leeway in the 2021 budget for a lot of unexpected costs that are possibly coming our way.
Okay. Thanks, Charlie. A couple other things just to mention too. Graduation update. I think I sent out the information, but we're going to have information going out to parents at the end of this week, just to kind of firm up some of what's going on. So the high school graduation will be on July the 8th at 10 in the morning. We are anticipating that we will be able to have 500 people gather for that event. So each student will be allowed to have 3 guests. We'll be getting tickets to the students, so that way we can keep that number under 500. We will not be using our bleachers for seating. We will have chairs on the field, and we will have our stage set up right almost in front of the scoreboard this year. So it'll be a little bit different than the setup we've had in the past. Spoken with Mr. Barrett and Mr. Hoyt. They have a plan where they'll take the groups of 3 chairs and they'll social distance them 6 feet from the others. We should be able to get the 500 people in no problem. At this point, we are probably going to be limiting it to the students and their parents and 1 guest, and just the administration and some teachers. So in usual, we always have all the board members, and we have some of the dignitaries from the other towns. We probably won't be able to do that this year, given the constraints of the number, and we'd like to be able to have as much family for the kids there as possible. So we'll get more information out on that. And then for the seniors also, the night before on the 7th at 5:30, we're going to do what we're calling the senior block party in conjunction with project graduation, where we're going to have the seniors come in, looking to get a DJ, some food trucks. We will give the seniors their yearbooks at that event. They'll be able to take some time and sign them, and just have a couple hours of being together one last time as the kids. And our hope is to start that out earlier in the day, have all the kids gather in the town square and kind of do a little march up Oxford Street, and then hopefully, maybe have some teachers gather. And we'll probably encourage the teachers to come to that more so than graduation, given the numbers restrictions. So more info will go out on that very shortly. 8th grade graduation will be on the 9th at 5:30, also on the football field. With 27 kids graduating, I don't believe we're going to have too many issues with the 500 number. So we'll be a little bit more open about how many folks can come to the 8th grade graduation. So that's a graduation. I would like to just comment real quick on Mary Ann Halloran, retiring. She's on the agenda tonight. Mary Ann's been a great employee for the district for many years. If you know Mary Ann, she's predominantly worked with the younger kids. Special person. She's done some excellent work for us, and she'll be sadly missed. Really, one of those people that just really always gets 100% every day, and time for her to enjoy her retirement and wish her the best of luck. I have a meeting tomorrow morning with a gentleman from Lincoln. Lincoln will be coming in to work with us in September to really take a good look as to where our students are and what was missed over the course of the shutdown or the virtual learning. They're going to help us with some benchmarks so we can have a really good idea by the end of September where we need to make adjustments in our curriculum and possible, extra things we need to do for the students to try to get them back up to speed and on grade level. So I'm looking forward to that conversation tomorrow. I'll be able to update more at the next board meeting on that. And then just last thing I want to say is thanking everyone, teachers and staff, and everybody who put in the time and effort to get us through to the finish line on June the 9th. It was a crazy year without question, but I think at the end of the day, we did the best that we could, and I'm proud of all the work that we did. So that's my report. Any questions, let me know.
A couple things. The in-person meeting. I personally think that's a great idea to go back to the in-person meetings. How does everybody else feel about that, though? Kind of like a straw poll here?
Agreed.
I agree. I agree. I agree.
I may join by phone. Let me just,
Okay.
when is this supposed to start, by the way? Next month?
I would assume we were talking about the next meeting, Chris, the theoretically 7:15 meeting?
Yeah, and are we talking July 15th, or are you wanting to switch it to July 13th?
Yeah, do we want to move it up a little bit? It's another discussion that we had to. We want to move that meeting before the 15th.
I think if we're going to approve the coaches and we want to do it prior, instead of adding an additional meeting, I would prefer the 13th. But
Okay.
I'm okay with adding an additional meeting if we have to do that as well.
Is everybody good on the 13th?
It's a Monday, but yeah, I'm good. That would work for me.
I'm good. Okay, so the 13th, in person for those of us who want to be in person, and there'll be a call-in number that I hope works for those who want to call in.
Yeah, that'll work because we'll have our old phone system to use.
Just so everybody knows, Michelle Bacchino was trying to join the meeting, but we don't have a call-in number for her. So that's what I was doing at the beginning. I kept texting her numbers, and I guess Eric still has no answer, right?
It looks like we have to pay for it. That's a service we have to pay for. We use the free Zoom, so that's an upgrade.
All right, I'm gonna text her now. I don't want you to think I'm doing something off, but I want to just text Michelle that we can't get it for her.
Okay, so everybody's good for the 13th at 7 p.m. We'll do that instead of the 15th? That makes sense for everybody?
Yes.
Okay, I'll send out a reminder on that tomorrow, so everybody knows to put it on their calendar.
Okay, I just sent that to Michelle so she can go do her thing. What else? I think that was all. Was there anything else we needed to ask Chris or clarification on from that stuff? No? Okay. So let's move on to the agenda items. I need a motion and a second for reorganization items 1 through 11.
Motion.
Second, somebody? Was that a second?
Second.
Okay. Questions for Chris?
I'm sorry, cut out. Questions for Chris on what?
On 1 through 11.
I have questions. Hold on. Or like number 1, is anything new, or is that just the same as last year?
Those are new. There's if you look specifically down almost, you're talking about the appointments, right? So about 2/3 of the way down, Mr. Bartow taking over as the affirmative action officer, Mr. Lazara taking over as the gender equity officer. And again, you can kind of see, the only ones that actually stayed were the liaison for homeless, the violence and vandalism coordinator, and school safety. And in speaking with Ms. McKinney, violence and vandalism coordinator and school safety basically go hand in hand. And I asked her to stay on as homeless liaison because we don't get very many homeless students, but when we do, it could be a big either financial impact one way or the other with the students, and I want to make sure that is continue to be done well. So that's probably something that she'll have to deal with maybe about an hour a year, but I want her to just stay on top of that. Otherwise, the rest of them are changed. Well, I shouldn't say that, but Mr. Barrett doing all his stuff is the same as well.
Okay.
Did that answer that? If I didn't, please let me know which one's specific.
And we need all these positions, right? Regardless of.
Yeah,
like,
a lot of it has to do with grants and grant writing, and also just reports that have to go to the state.
I'm just saying, as far as like, we're not putting a stipulation on these, we're approving these regardless of whether we're virtual or not.
Oh, correct, yes, yeah, all
Okay.
that stuff still has to get done, yes.
Okay.
And those are not stipended positions, those are just within the realm of their job description.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, Catherine?
That's it.
Okay, anybody else have any questions for Chris on these items?
Chris, what's the deal with Brown and Brown? I see them insurance agent for property casualty. Is that the only status they have with the school district at this point?
Shelley, you want to answer that?
No, they're still our regular, medical and prescription and dental broker as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? Is this a motion and second, Shell, or is this a roll call thing?
Roll call.
Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Blum? Dr. Zuppeth?
Yes.
Mrs. Costantino?
Yes.
Mrs. Pell?
Yes.
Mrs. Duckworth?
Yes.
Mrs. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Steffen?
Yes.
Mr. LeVar?
Yes.
Mrs. Williams?
Yes.
Okay, can I have a motion and a second, for personnel items on the regular agenda, they're called, and it's 1 through 12.
Motion.
Second.
Okay, questions for Chris?
Yes, number 10, on the, to approve the ESEA Title I SIA funded ASP. Could you tell me what all those initials stand for?
Sure. The ESEA is the Every Student Succeeds Act. So basically our Title I funding. So basically the nice way to say that, Doc, is that all those hours are paid for by the state of New Jersey, not by Belvidere School District. The ASP team is the team that we are required to have. If you recall, 2 years ago when we had our low test scores, we were placed on, so I'll call it a watch list, and we work with the state to improve our programming. So that's the team that we are required to put together. And what they'll do is they'll meet with a liaison from the state, and they'll do some work, curriculum based, but it is all funded by the state of New Jersey.
Okay, thank you.
Chris, side note, I just got an email from Michelle. Her husband was able to download Zoom on his work phone, so
Yep.
keep an eye out on the waiting room, so you might be trying to come in.
Okay.
All right, go ahead, I'm sorry, who else?
What does SIA and ASP stand for, Chris?
You know, I know what ASP stands for, but it's literally coming out of my head at the moment, and I apologize.
That's okay. I mean, that was Doc's question. You know, that's a bugaboo with me, all this alphabet
I
soup.
know. Let me get the answer for you. I'm gonna get you the answer for you.
Send me a text, you know, when you get a chance, not an emergency.
Okay.
I have questions like 1 through 4 again. Are any new positions for 1 through 4 or the same?
Let's see. 1 through 4. Okay, give me 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
The number 3 is a new position, Mrs. Pell. That's obviously the elementary school guidance counselor, and otherwise no.
Okay. And then for numbers 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It looks like this is all for summer.
Yes. Yeah, that is stuff that we traditionally do every year.
Oh, we do this isn't because of COVID, we do this every year?
No, we do this every year. Obviously, just the only thing is with number 6, because our extended school year at this point is gonna be, virtual, that's why it says approved virtual remote. If we were able to be in session, then it would just be approving those positions. Those are things we do every year, for our extended school year. If you look at where it says, some of the work that Carrie Lee will do, we have her come in, Donna Gola comes in to do the sports physicals. We have Sue March coming in to do, some work obviously every summer on her end, and then you can just see the CST. Keep in mind the CST is split up by the entire cluster, not necessarily just for Belvidere. And then guidance, we always have the guidance counselors in so they can do any schedule changes during the course of the summer.
Okay, so this is just standard, okay, thank you.
Standard, yep, standard.
I had a question about number 6. So it says the preschool disabilities enrichment program, if possible, in-person instruction will be provided. Are we looking into that at all for July or no? We're definitely all virtual.
We are looking into that for July, but we're likely gonna stay all virtual at this point.
How many kids are in this program, Chris?
That's what I was gonna ask.
And
And is it affected by the virtual?
I would absolutely say it's affected by the virtual. There's no question about that, which is why we still want to kick around the idea of, if possible, doing it in person. My guess would be somewhere in the number of about 15 to 20, Marion.
Is this a group of kids that would really benefit from being in person?
They would. I would agree with that. Going back and forth with Mr. Gelli on that. I can tell you right now that if we do the in-person extended school year, we would be the only school in the county that would do that.
I don't care about that.
Not that I ever mind fighting for the school, but right now that's it. So, we are still looking into it. So, but at least for now, we get it put together for extended, virtual. We have it for.
Do you have a rough idea what the normal number is, like the past couple summers, or?
I don't off the top of my head. I can get that to you.
Just curious, thank you.
Yeah. I'm assuming that the number should be pretty consistent because we still have to offer that extended school year, even though we're virtual, so it shouldn't really be a different number. I mean, there might be a few parents that choose not to do it because of the virtual part of it, so I can get you those numbers.
Okay.
With number 5, to approve the superintendent to hire as necessary, to be board approved at the August 2020 meeting. I mean, if we're meeting July 13th and we're willing to add an additional meeting, I don't know that we necessarily need number 5.
Always throw that on there just in case after that meeting, something happens and we lose a teacher or two. We want to make sure we wrap people up, but that's up to the board.
We always put that in there. I don't know if I have a problem. I don't think I have a problem with that. I don't know.
So we all know what's going on, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't hire anybody without letting you guys all know what the positions were.
So we would still know though?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would send you, especially if like last year, we had one of our social studies teachers resign during the summer. So in order to keep the person that we wanted, not under contract yet, but just to be able to offer a contract so that we can say that you have an employment offer rather than waiting until the end of August where they can go find something else. But I usually keep everybody informed, let you know. Certainly when somebody leaves, let you know, and then if it's going to be somebody else we're going to hire, let you know. So I wouldn't just all of a sudden show up on the meeting on the 24th and say, hey, by the way, I hired this person, this job, that job. It'd be just keeping informed along the way. And if possible, having a personnel committee meeting too.
Okay.
I got another question for number 6. Have any parents requested not to have their kids in because it's virtual?
I don't have the answer to that. I will find that out for you.
Okay.
I don't know that it's a very high number. I think most parents still want to do some sort of programming. But I'll find out. I'll speak with
Specialist. Why do we need a media specialist for 20 hours over the summer?
just for any updates that need to go on the equipment that's in that media center. So some of the nice technology that we have in there, just spend some time making sure that it's up to date. That's why we put up to, not necessarily she's gonna hit all 20.
Can't we have Eric do that?
Eric has to update all the other 600 plus computers and everything else over the course of the summer, so we want to make sure he focuses on that.
Anybody else have any questions?
I have a question on number 11. The total, that's with the shared, is that part of the base salary, or is that paid directly by Harmony?
Jerry, that's on your contract.
What I'm
Number
saying-
11, Harmony pays, and that,
It's a little confusing how it's written, so.
yeah, on number 26 is what Harmony pays,
Okay,
$83,188.
okay,
The 38,000 is the part of that that goes to me for doing that job.
okay, all right, that's all I need to know, thanks.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, this is roll call, Shell, right?
Yes. Mr. Blum, can you hear me yet? Mrs. Aquino, is that you?
Yes, but I just joined in. I was just finally able, so I don't even know where you guys are at this point.
Right now, we're just gonna do roll call on the personnel items, so if you wanna take a look, I'll swing back around to you at the end.
Yeah, come to me at the end, please.
Okay.
It's 1 to 12 under personnel, Michelle.
Thanks.
Dr. Zuppeth?
Yes.
Mrs. Costantino?
Yes.
Mrs. Powell?
Yes, except, number 7, the media specialist, no.
Mrs. Duckworth?
Yes.
Mrs. Scott?
Yes to all except number 5.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Steffen?
Well, I'd like to vote yes to everything, but I do have a problem with the media specialist. How can we control that? If we're not gonna go back to school full-time, I don't know why I need a media specialist to come in. I guess that's what my question is. So maybe I just vote no. That's what I'm doing. Yes to all, but no to the media specialist.
Mr. LeBar?
Yes to all, abstain number 10, Beth Schramm.
Mrs. Williams?
Yes to all.
And Ms. Aquino, if you've had a chance to check them over?
Yeah, yes to all, please.
Okay.
Okay, education items, 13. Hold on, sorry, my hands are so dry, I can't flip the pages. 13 to 18.
Motion.
Second.
Okay. Questions for Chris?
So 16 is obviously going to be the same as we just talked about with personnel for the virtual in-person. So I'll get to the answer to those questions. I'll also, if there is a change and we do decide to go in person, I'll let everybody know quickly.
Okay.
Obviously, we'll make that decision by the early part of next week.
Number 13, the HIB self-assessment, is that something new in the HIB process?
No, we have to do that every year, report it to the state, and then the state reports our scores out sometime in October, I believe.
Okay.
I have a question on number 18.
Okay.
To approve the purchase of My View Literacy Textbook Program. It just want to know what, when I see textbooks being purchased, I want to know because we're not returning a lot of our materials in our textbooks. I want to make sure that, what that is right there.
So that's the new literacy program that the K-5 teachers have discussed putting in place. Obviously, we've talked before about our test scores and their need for improvement. With some money that we have again from the state, this was what we decided to choose as the new program to hopefully improve literacy and writing all around.
Okay, so
basically picked up by the teachers. Go ahead, sorry.
picked out by the teachers, like based on what though?
We usually get a lot of samples, we take a good look at them, try to match it up with what our curriculum currently is and what they think is best for the students overall.
Okay, so these are all this is a new curriculum, this is not replacement of old textbooks.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
I have just one question, Chris, on number 17, and it's probably more just gonna understand. How do you give physical therapy virtually?
Just like we're doing right now, through Zoom, having something put together. You know, we were somewhat successful in doing it in the regular part of the year with our OTPT. So it's just the same thing. They'll be meeting one-on-one with the kids in the virtual setting, doing the best that they can.
Okay.
Chris, getting back to the HIB self-assessment, it looked like it was an Excel spreadsheet that I couldn't read properly because it didn't come in straight. Can you just give us the Reader's Digest condensed version of what the assessment was? How was it graded, and where did we fit in there's a range, it seems, and, you know, did we pass ourselves or fail ourselves?
I can tell you we passed ourselves.
Okay.
It has a lot to do more so with the way we file our reports and making sure we're compliant with what the state requirements for those filings are. So that's something that comes out of either with Jess McKinney from high school from the last year, and then Ginny Belsky from the elementary school.
There were a series of numbers in the Excel spreadsheet, and then a score at the end, right?
Right. Yeah, so it's usually based out of 75 points. There's 3 different sections. We usually wind up somewhere in the very high 60s or low 70s. We report that back to the state. They just check for any errors or any concerns that they have, and then they usually just certify the score.
Okay.
So again, it's more on the process and making sure we're following what the law is rather than how many you have.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, let's move on to business items. They are 19 through 40, right, Shel? I didn't see a breakout, so they went all the way through to the end.
I think so, sounds right.
Yeah, through 40.
Okay, 19 through 40.
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All right, questions for Chris?
Yeah, I have some questions. Items number 21, I guess 22, 23. I'm lost on what we're spending on this fire safety door because I thought it was only like approximately 13,000, or am I wrong? What's going on?
Can I jump in, Shel?
Originally, the fire door estimate was 300,000, and we got it down to around 150,000, and then the bid came in at 155 plus the 10,990 for the alternate. So it's been right in line with what we've been discussing.
Okay, so you're gonna accept. So that's what it's gonna be. It's gonna be the 165 or 166,000 is what you're saying about.
Yes, they have 155 plus the alternate.
Okay, so that's for all of items 21, 22, and 23 then?
Well, 23, so 21 and 22 relate to the fire doors.
Okay, and
The deficient problem that we've had.
Yeah.
And now we're finally getting the solution of it.
mhm.
And then 23 and 24 relate to the science room exhaust fan, that the,
Yeah,
so they wanted to go forward with.
okay, I saw approved fire stair, so I wasn't sure if that was part of it. Okay, so the total cost for then the science for 23 and 24 is the 63,000?
Yes.
Okay, and that's room 220?
I actually received an email while we were on here from the high school, I think Sarah Chavon's chemistry. She said her room is 220, so that this room is actually 222.
Oh, okay. All right, well,
I think I should probably correct that was,
okay.
pull that off the specs, but it must be 222. Unless we're switching classrooms, I'm not sure, but it's definitely the science room that does not have the exhaust fan in it now.
Okay. I had a question on the cafeteria part. Approved school lunch prices, has there been any discussion about, cause I know like in other school districts in the county, they're talking about having prepackaged lunch and not having the cafeteria women come in and so forth, so, I don't know if it has anything, if that's relevant to number 33 or not.
It's actually a good question when we get to that point of, if they're gonna actually prepare lunches rather than just put a packaged lunch together. I'm assuming that that's based on normal, routine of lunch, but it's a good question to raise if we do wind up with prepackaged lunch. So I don't know how to advise you to vote on that one, because I think it's an up in the air kind of thing.
So the reason that lunch prices go up, is because there's a certain base that we have to meet each year, with the child nutrition, and that's why we've had to increase ours 10 cents a year to get to what the minimal cost is. That's based on the status quo. I mean, at this point, I haven't heard that they would change anything, even if they were doing packaged lunches, that it would still be treated for just the normal paid lunch amount. But if there are any accommodations, we could readdress this motion at that time. But right now, this is based upon our normal course of lunches.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. What do you mean by prepackaged lunches?
So like, for example, what we've been basically giving out for the last 3 months to the students, where it all comes prepared already. So whether it's a pre-made sandwich or it's, you know, a yogurt or some fruit or something like that in a package, rather than the kids walking up to the line and being able to get, you know,
No
sandwich made right there, no hot stuff, things like that.
So this is based on COVID restrictions, not based on what, and I would think that you should probably go to bid on that again then. Because
This isn't or based upon any company. This is just the base prices that Child Nutrition says we need to charge for our school lunch.
No, I understand that part. I mean, they set minimums and maximums. What I'm saying is, if this does change for Belvidere in the future based on COVID, doesn't that mean that because of the expenses that you have to pay, that you should go to bid for that? Because there's other companies out there that might want to do it.
Do our nutritional program?
Yeah, I'm saying, if Mascios is telling you that, this is all we're going to provide to you.
No, Mascio's not telling us that at all.
All right, so.
We haven't heard that. I don't know if that was, I took it more as a broad question, if it comes down from the governor or something, that you have to do prepackaged lunches.
I know North Warren was talking about doing it, and they kind of like already moved on it, so that's why I asked the question that if we were to go to that, or they were to mandate that, how would that affect a number 33? But nobody's mentioned anything about that officially coming.
Okay, because it's cheaper to do it that way, that's what I'm saying, so I just think that we would go back out to bid.
Yeah, and I don't want prepackaged lunches or any of that, because I don't think it's good for the kids, but I was just asking regarding COVID restrictions.
Okay.
Yeah. Chris, for number 31, any new positions there or the same?
Those are the same.
Okay.
Are any of those full-time positions?
Yes, Lisa Cundiff and, I believe Maureen Burns and Terry Byrne.
Were we gonna look at that?
Yes, we still are gonna look at that.
Okay, so even if we approve it here, we're approving a position, not a person, can we say that?
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions for Chris?
Number 36 for the legal fees, is that for the 1920 or 2021?
1920.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay, can I get, are all in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Continuing business. What do we have in a continuing, Chris? I don't have my,
Just mention, you and I met about my evaluation.
we did, I met with Chris today at lunchtime about his evaluation. I don't know all I can say. Can I say it? I don't know. I had
you can just say
summarized
that.
everything we said. It was all written down. I actually sent that to Chris on Monday night, I think was able to get it out to you. I worked on it over the weekend. Went over today. I highlighted everything that we had highlighted. And we'll have it on the next agenda for final approval. I thank everybody for working hard. That was a lot of work for us to get it done, for you to get the questions answered, and for us to have that marathon meeting. I do have just a side note while we're on, because it's, I guess, continuing business. Catherine had sent out a while ago some information about our scores, which we discussed a lot in Chris's evaluation meeting. I went on the Department of Education website and just looked at the summaries, and I looked at all the high schools in Warren County and compared it to a high end and a lower end out of county. I also grabbed the summary report cards for all three sending districts, and we don't look good at all. I will send that out to the board tomorrow when I get to work. I'll send it out to everybody. It's kind of easy to read. If you don't understand or you have any questions, go on the Department of Ed website. The one part that I didn't understand, what was that, Chris? SBO or something?
Yeah.
I didn't understand that there's a phenomenal video that explains that on the website. But I think it's worthwhile for everybody to take a look at and maybe spend a few minutes on. Jen, you probably are going to understand it when you see it. It's the rest of us that are going to be a little confused. But I will send that.
Appreciate you looking into that, though. Kat has been saying it for a while, so thank you for saying that.
So I will send that out to the board tomorrow. And like I said, if you don't understand or have any questions, please don't ask me. Go to the Department of Ed website. Ask Chris. Reach out. But there is a great explanation of all the stuff on the Department of Ed website.
Is that just for the high school, or did you look at the elementary as well?
No, I compared both. I did all the high schools for the county, and then, like I said, I happen to know, my daughter taught at Westfield, and I know that's a very high-end high school, so I picked that one. And she's at Manville, which is in our same grouping, so I picked that one. So that was 2 out-of-county high schools I grabbed, and then I grabbed the 3 sending districts to compare to our elementary. I didn't grab any other grammar schools in the county. You can easily do that if you go to the website. I just didn't want to make this a 50-page document.
No, I understand. I do like, as Jen said, I appreciate this because I've been saying it for about 1.5 years, and I want to solve the problem. I don't want to just keep talking about it just to talk about it. So what I'm hoping is that we can at least admit or acknowledge there's a problem, because once we can admit and acknowledge there's an issue, then we can identify the problem, and then we can try to solve the problem.
Exactly. And when you see this, it's kind of evident that there is definitely a problem.
Okay.
I just wanted to say, and I did say to Mary Ann today when we met that if you recall, after our workshop with Dr. Zwicky, I did put a presentation together about what my goals would be going basically for an 18-month stretch. And the first one was academic improvement. So I'm going to resend that out to everybody, so make sure you can see it. And again, like at that point, I asked for any input that you may have, and I'll do the same again. And I think those should be the goals moving forward for this coming up school year, as best we can, given the opportunity that we may be going to virtual or whatever. But I know we had talked about, when we had met with Kathy Hill, we're going on a more normal board rotation when it comes to setting goals and evaluating goals, rather than kind of doing it all right at the end, and maybe making it more of a process that we do continue throughout the year. So,
were you ever able to get a list from the state of the recommendations for times to do all the things we're supposed to be doing?
I did. I sent that out in an email right after I met with Kathy. It was,
I didn't see it.
yeah, it was kind of, I'll resend it again. But yeah, it was a pretty good timeline of, kind of when you should be hitting certain marks.
Yes, it was, and I think we need to really try to follow that this year going forward. And also, Chris and I talked about in his evaluation, and he just alluded to it, that rather than just kind of screwing around and guessing where we're at, I think at least quarterly, and maybe you guys want to do it more frequently, we throw on the board agenda to discuss exactly where we're at with some of these goals. Not just from his standpoint, but from our standpoint. We set these goals. We want to, make sure that we're improving the district. So we kind of want to track where we're at and where we're going. I think Lincoln will help us with some of the score issues, but there's other things we wanna track as well, so I'm throwing this out there, like I said, I would like to see at least quarterly. If somebody wants to do it more frequently, we can always do it more frequently. I look to you guys to tell me what you wanna do.
Yeah, I think it's important we just set up that calendar. Soon, I know we usually set the calendar in July for the following year, so let's set the calendar for when we need to check in on that. Get
Okay.
those dates in advance.
Chris, why don't you send that timeline out before the next meeting on the 13th?
I'm gonna send it out right now. I'll
And
be
then
with you guys
if we
real
have,
quick.
maybe we can schedule like 10 or 15 minutes in continuing business or new business, and we'll just go over that and kind of just get a generic set, and we can pencil in the hard numbers later if we have to. I think that's a good idea.
And Mary Ann, you also mentioned, I think it was last week, about the board evaluations.
Yes.
When are we looking to do that?
I gotta find out more information about that, because we've never done one, but I'd like to, as soon as now we have the superintendent evaluation put to bed, I would like to move on to that next. So maybe August timeframe, but let me look into that and get more information, because like I said, we've never done one.
Okay.
I have a question, I think it's continuing business, regarding the feasibility study.
Mhm.
I know you guys mentioned at the last meeting and I forgot to ask, I guess Mary Ann and Brian are representing, I was just wondering, why I wasn't asked, or if, are we doing president, vice president? I was just wondering why I wasn't asked or why I wasn't included, because I've been such a big proponent of pushing for that.
It has turned out, with the exception of Harmony, to be president and vice president of all the other districts.
Okay,
And I think we, for our point of view, we have a liaison committee that meets with Harmony, which just happens to be Mary Ann and Brian. I think it just made more sense to continue to do that.
I know, I was a little disappointed just because I have been pushing so much for it and I feel like it's, something I can add to, but okay.
I'll definitely, Catherine, get minutes out after that meeting so you know exactly where we stand, and I can't speak for Brian, but I will be pushing for it as well.
Okay, thank you. And then I think I have two other questions, but I think they're for new business, so that's it.
All right, anybody else have continuing business?
I have continuing business. Chris, where are we on the foundation?
We definitely got waylaid on the foundation. Had a conversation with Dr. Zwicky last week to start that process again. So hopefully I'll have an update for you by the August meeting.
Okay. And my second one is, in the past, we've always talked about, and since we do have some savings, I just want to put this out there. Our sports teams really are in need of some field work. And so I'm thinking that you need to maybe put that as one of the priorities for this extra money. I know that we can always throw money in a million places and never have enough, but this was something that was voted on and accepted, and then the money was no longer there, and they continue to play on fields that are sometimes hurtful. I know there have been football players and field hockey players that have been hurt in reference to the condition of our fields. So I'm just thinking that if we have some extra money, that maybe we can put it into that.
Okay. Sounds good.
Great take, Colleen.
Put it into one specifically. I'm sorry, some of it cut out, like the fields or.
I think the fields really need some work, especially,
So, but I'm saying, what is all the fields, or is there a specific field that you're mentioning?
I got her froze on my screen, Catherine, I
Yeah,
don't
it's
know.
frozen too. I think she was going for more of an overall approach.
Yeah.
Catherine, I know we had put money aside a couple years ago for field hockey
for a while.
that we weren't able to do, so that might be the leading point.
I just wanna know so that we can make that as like an agenda item on the, next finance meeting.
Colleen, you back?
Yes,
Would
I
you-
am.
Catherine was asking, are you talking about a specific field or just fields in general?
Well, fields in general, all of them,
Okay.
we all know need to be redone.
Yes.
But, I know that the football field does need work, and there's more than just that sport that can play on that if it's fixed. And field hockey is definitely an issue. It's been something that we've been looking into for years and it has never been touched.
Got it.
I think we did talk about that, correct, in finance, and I think we did, I believe we set money aside, but we can discuss that again and kind of, maybe Chris, you can get a more detailed answer on that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we did. I think the only problem is gonna be, we have to wait now that the budget comes out at the end of August to find out how much money we actually are gonna have.
Because, just because it may seem that we have some now, we have no idea what the cuts are gonna be in August.
Exactly.
I get it, I'm just putting it out.
Yeah, no, Catherine will put it on the list, I'm sure. Well, it was actually already on the list.
Yeah, we have discussed it, yes. Okay, just wanted to know specifically.
All right, anybody else have any new business? Or anybody else have any new business? We finished continuing.
I have,
Question,
okay, good.
as far as the coaches coming up for the next meeting, is there advertisements out for coaching positions? How's that all work?
So, we put out our, list of coaches and availability. We do that at the end. We did this year on April 30th. We always usually do it at the end of April. And we have the responses, from what we have. You know, at this point, it looks like we'll continue with the majority of the coaches in the same positions. But we do have to look at that. If we did want to have a quick, personnel meeting before that, we could certainly do that as well. Just to kind of
Okay,
go through them all.
What does that look like if we find out in a couple weeks that they're changing spring sports and fall sports back and forth, then it'll be a whole new process?
Yeah, so that's why I've been intentionally trying to hold off as long as we can, for that reason, and even more so if there are no seasons. Again, being in that situation where we approved everybody last year and then had to pay the stipend. Again, in speaking with Mr. Bartow, we're hoping that we're gonna get some information. It's supposed to be by the end of this week and hopefully early next week, but I don't know that's gonna happen.
Right, that
That's
was
why
my,
that's why we picked not to cut you off, sorry, Jen, but that's why we picked the fall as the ones that we would allow to, the traditional fall is the one we would allow to come in for the conditioning beginning in, July 13th. But hopefully by then, we will know for sure what, what sports are gonna be running.
well, I think that was my question, is that I know we're waiting and I know why we're waiting and I agree to wait. But I found out today that you posted in April for, the positions that we were going to have, like all sports were on there. And I guess the teachers or the coaches could write letters, but I thought that all was on hold. I didn't know any of that happened, the postings at all.
So we stuck with our traditional timeline with the postings, and we really made the decision as we got towards the end of May, when we would normally at the second May meeting, or if we have an early June meeting is when we would appoint all of our coaches. Let me rephrase that, all of our coaches minus the spring. But we decided to hold off on that, not knowing what the sports was gonna look like. So we did post it, as we normally would.
So the process is always in April to post for all positions. You don't do it by season. It's for everything in April.
Correct.
Yeah, because there's rumors out there about, who's coaching this and who's coaching that. And I just want to say, as a board, no one is approved. We might not even have fall sports. So there's nobody coaching anything right now. So I think that that's really important because some reason, I don't have Facebook, but there's all kinds of information out there about who's coaching what, and we haven't approved anything. So I'm not sure where the information is being given to certain people on Facebook or certain parents, because no information has been given, or we haven't approved anything.
Yeah, there's been like a petition to save a soccer coach's job. Like, I'm not sure what's happening because we've been tabling that. So I just wanted to make sure that there wasn't anything else that we were missing, maybe. I don't know.
Not at the moment. Certainly when we get to the conversation about who's going to be where, certainly we do know that we have one coach that we have to appoint. That was, by an arbitrator's award. So we do have to do that. So otherwise, nobody's appointed yet.
So I actually have a question, because, and it's not really related to the coaching, but it's related kind of to the same thing. So one of the things that I did bring up in the evaluation, and Marion can verify, is that I have been feeling lately that there are some parents and Facebook members that have more information than we do as a board, like with the summer camp, the reopening plan guidelines, which I did confirm was taken from the website. So let me just start with the summer camp. The summer camp was posted, but we tabled it. So it's confusing as a board member when we tabled the summer camp, then Work Family Connections then advertises all over Facebook that we are opening on, say, July 6th. So I had an issue with that, and then I had an issue with the reopening plan. I guess it was posted on the website, and then I guess it was shared on Facebook. So I guess my issue really is just, maybe that could be part of like the weekly updates, so that, let's say the board members don't regularly check the website and specifically click on a link, that we have a little bit of a notice about exactly what's going on with that sort of thing before we get inundated with questions, so I'm just feeling, and I don't know how this information is getting out before us, but there seems like there's a group of parents, and I don't know if it's related to the PTA, I'm not really sure, that are more informed and know some things ahead of time than we do as board members.
I thought I had sent out the reopening flyer to everybody on one of my weekly updates.
Not that any of us recall, but I did cover this in depth, Catherine, and I used the Brad Bartow flyer that we received, was it yesterday? That we got ahead of it being publicized, which was phenomenal. And that's how everything needs to go in the future, because it's embarrassing for us to say we don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I brought it up again today only because of the coaching thing again. Like, there was some petition all over Facebook about some coach, and it's like, why is stuff going on? And I know we can't control Facebook and parents on Facebook, but it just seems like some of this information is being leaked out prior, and then we're not in the know. So I had that issue. And then the second thing for new business is, during the virtual learning, we spent a lot of time, congratulating everyone for such a great job. And I don't want to diminish the effort that everybody put forward. And I understand that it was all new and trial and error. And obviously there's going to be ways to improve moving forward. But I just had some parents reach out to me. One of them being a local neighbor, saying that their children had asked teachers questions and they weren't getting response rates. I know for my son, his teacher was wonderful, but I did hear from several different families that if they had a question during virtual learning and they reached out to a teacher, one teacher didn't respond for up to 3 weeks. So I just want to know how we're going to be tracking, like how do the administrators, or how are we going to be tracking if we do this virtual learning in the fall, or we were to shut down at any time, or whatever happens next year, and we're in a virtual setting. How can we track that these students aren't just slipping through the cracks and that these teachers are responding to them?
So I'm going to answer that in two ways. Number one is, if there was a parent that had a concern about teacher not responding for 3 weeks, I hope that they send it to one of the administrators, because we would have got right on that. Secondly, with our reopening plan, we're going to have a virtual plan in place for next year. I'm not going to sit here and say it was the greatest thing that took place over 3 months, but we know that there's some things we need to improve on, and that's one of them. So we're gonna try to figure out what's the most efficient way to do that. So I don't have a clear answer for you today, but by the time we get to the beginning of the school year, I will.
Yeah, and I expect hiccups. I was just disappointed to hear a teacher not responding for 3 weeks, because I just feel like if you're not responding for 3 weeks, that's not just a hiccup. That I personally can't understand how anyone could not respond for 3 weeks. So.
Yeah, I would be disappointed with that too, quite frankly.
Okay. All right, good. So I just want to make sure that that's being discussed as far as like improvements and ways we can better this for next year in the event we are virtual or part of the year.
Okay, any other new business?
I did, by the way, send that flyer out. It was sent September 17th, so just June 17th. So just wanted to point that out.
Which one?
Oh, you did?
The reopening one, the reentry plan.
Okay, we'll check that, and if you sent it out, then we'll take that one back.
Yeah, so June 17th it went out.
We'll take it back if you sent it out.
I gotta get some credit, can't I?
Oh, I see it.
Okay, don't feel bad, you're not the only one who missed it.
Okay, I see it. So the summer camp and the other stuff, but that particular instance, yep, it is there though, I guess.
Fair enough.
No, we did get it. My issue was that everybody else seemed to know about it first. We got the email, but it went through the PTA way before that, and it was posted ahead of time.
So I think it's trying to identify the source of who's leaking this information out to parents before board members are getting it.
Okay.
We're just gonna make sure we get it first from now on.
Yes, thank you.
All right, anybody else have anything? All right, so just confirm, on July 13th at 7 o'clock, we're gonna have a board meeting, and it's gonna be in person at over at the high school. Correct? Everybody's on board with that?
I'll be there.
All right. All right, so now we're to public participation. What do you got, Sal?
I have a letter and a series of letters that I did share with the entire board earlier today that I received from BHS soccer players. They did ask and put their names to this for public participation. So I believe I should read these letters.
There's a lot of them, but I think you should read them. I think they deserve that.
Okay. So it starts with a team statement. The team statement from the BHS soccer players says, with less than a day of knowing about the recent changes to the coaching staff for next year as part of the Belvidere sports program, the boys varsity soccer team would like to request Coach Sean McIntyre to continue coaching through the upcoming 2021 season. We would like for Mr. Dempsey and Mr. Poyer to respectfully decline their offer as coaches due to the many reasons why Sean McIntyre was more beneficial to our soccer program. He made us bond together as a team that no other coach has ever done in Belvidere sports history. In every state practice, Coach McIntyre found an intelligent and a unique method to get us inspired for the biggest game of our life. It was truly a special week for a growing program that made us feel more confident than ever going into the game. It was all thanks to our amazing coach. He made us want to win, and it led us to losing a close game to technology, only 2-1. They went on to the section championship. We were the 14th seed, and they were the 3rd seed. We know with Coach McIntyre that we can make a run this year. With all respect to all members of the community and school, we feel that with Coach McIntyre, we can be successful as a team, and it would be a shame not to be able to grow as a team to our full potential. In the other documents attached are team photos, quotes, and posts that McIntyre shared with us on Classroom that can prove Mr. McIntyre really cared about our team, and personal letters players wanted to share with everyone. We know our voices are small, but we wish to be heard. They also then included a link to the petition that I believe Mrs. Costantino referenced that has over 200 and some signatures on it. Then goes to letters from the specific boys on the team. I can give you their names. They did send those.
What is this for? This is soccer varsity?
This is the varsity boys soccer.
Varsity boys soccer, and we have a JV soccer and no freshmen, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't understand why is he, was he given notice that he's not going to be coaching?
He was given notice that he's not going to be the varsity head coach this year.
But I know that Chris and I went back and forth today, but my issue with this is there's no coaches approved. And I know what you're saying that, somebody has to be approved, but no one has to be approved. We don't even know if we're officially having soccer. So I think that that's where the entire thing got blown up. I don't think that information should have been given yet because none of us have spoken about it.
Well, the other thing is that Dempsey and Poyer have told everyone that the state told them, the arbitrator has said to them, you get your jobs back and we'll fire McIntyre, that he doesn't have his job, even though he's done a much better job than either of them have ever done.
Okay, well, I better be here saying we didn't write them, so I don't want to talk about names.
We can't mention names. We can, Chris, make sure you write to everybody before the next meeting, because I'm sure we'll need to be using names.
Right, so in the meantime, it's just a matter of, I don't know why anyone was told anything, and this entire uproar started when we didn't approve anyone, and we still might not have fall sports.
Do we have a JV coach?
We have people that are interested in the JV position.
So
Someone who's been in the position for very many years and is an association member.
Oh, okay, so McIntyre can't get that position then?
No.
Don't mention any names.
No name.
Okay, so if the arbitrator says that someone has to get their job back, is that I'm a little confused. So can we go to that point? Because that's where this miscommunication is coming from, it sounds like.
So if you recall, without going through the whole award again from the arbitrator and the tenure case, the one thing that was specifically said was Mr. Dempsey will be returned as the boys' head soccer coach, varsity soccer coach for the fall of 2020. So Mr. Bartow and I had a discussion, and he decided to let Mr. McIntyre know that he would not be able to be the head coach of this year.
But he can apply for the JV for the assistant coach position. Is there?
He can do that. Yes, he can apply for that position.
Okay. And it is my understanding that Mr. Poyer wasn't a coach, he was.
Guys,
No names.
please, be careful of the names, nobody's been raised.
I'm sorry.
I think we need to stop talking about this.
I think you're right, Ryan.
I would agree.
Suffice it to say, we have a legal document that says somebody gets a position, and we can't go against that legal document.
Okay, so I think that maybe Karuba needs to meet.
Cut out.
Colleen, can you hear us? You cut out again.
Whose yapper is that?
No, but now mine's starting to go in the background. Colleen, hello?
I just missed that because something happened, I don't know, I saw names flashing in over my screen. What was the question?
You were saying something.
Yes, I was saying that I'm thinking that because this is being put there, I mean, we have to address these boys. Their request, and I think that the best way to do that is with Mr. Bartow and Mr. Caruso, explaining the legality of everything and why things have to be that way. Because I think that they deserve that.
I
They've
agree.
been through enough in the last 2 years.
Well, if we race them for the next meeting, we can actually have conversations then.
Okay.
I agree. I didn't want to talk about this really at all. I just wanted to put it here that letter that was just read, really, they put effort into it. I have nothing against any of the coaches, but we have no one approved. No one lost their job. Nobody's getting their job. Nothing's happening yet.
Correct.
That's what I wanted to say.
The other thing is, we're in public participation, so we probably shouldn't be saying anything.
You want me to read the rest of the boys' letters?
I think they deserve it to have their letters read. I truly believe that. I know none of us want to sit here, but I think they truly deserve to have them read in public.
I agree.
Who said none of us wanna sit here?
I want to go have dinner, but that's okay.
We have letters from Justin Castaneda, Tom Spy, Michael Escalera, Jeffrey Markle, Aaron Lasco, Christopher Escalera, and Wyatt Serrano. Those letters include: Coach Mack changed my game so much for the better, from making me more fit to making me understand the game in a different way. His goal was to make us better players and better people. He wasn't like other coaches because he would talk to me in the hallway and ask me how I was doing during practice, and during practice all he would do was work on us and work his hardest to make us the best possible. Working with him for a season made me better in one season than anyone has ever done. The soccer team would all agree he is the coach that will lead us to a state championship, lead us to being undefeated, and help us play on into college. He has been the only coach that I could say, and my teammates could say, that actually knew the game of soccer and had past experience being a top player in a big high school and going far into states. Coach Mack should stay because he had a good influence on all of us and built our team from something small to something huge at the beginning of a season. No one communicated or used teamwork, and by the end of the season, that's all we did. Coach Mack gave us a good foundation and helped bring ourselves to states. Unfortunately, we didn't get past the first round, but it's okay because we need him longer so that we can make it further this upcoming season. Coach Mack had introduced me to one of the best years of soccer in my life, and as a freshman, it was a great way to learn that hard work and discipline really pays off because he really pushed us, making sure that we were given 110% all the time and not goofing around. He's one of the coaches that really takes soccer seriously and that contributes to the entire team, and that energy that he gives off really pushes us and motivates us to work harder and harder every day. We really want Coach Mack to be our coach again because we feel like we can have one of the best soccer seasons of our life this year. He held highest standards, probably aren't even achievable, but he believes in us and we believe in him. And that's what's going to push us this year. We really changed our perspective on our game, and that's something that I don't think any coaches taught me. Coming up from middle school, the game of soccer changed for me. I get to the fields for the first time with my heart beating. I was so nervous, but so ready. It was always a goal of mine to achieve getting the soccer varsity team. He worked me so hard, but didn't exclude me because I was a freshman. After weeks of great training, he gave me the opportunity to fill in a spot on the varsity roster. I got to meet the boys on the team, and they accepted me as well. It changed not only soccer, it changed high school for me. I'm so appreciative of the chance he gave me. Throughout the season, he would talk to me about what I can improve, not just on the field. He would help us be a better person. And after every practice, he would go hard at it. Once it was over, he would talk to us about the random stuff, etc. He would stay the extra 25 minutes to talk to us. Being on the team, I can speak for them, saying he was part of us. Not just a coach, but he was a brotherhood. He changed the culture of Belvidere soccer. It was a sport where I loved to go to practice, where I loved going to games. My soccer skills drastically improved from his coaching. Coach Mack has completely changed the culture of Belvidere soccer in the 1 year he spent coaching. He improved everyone's work ethic, character, and devotion. He truly cared about every second of every practice. He cared about every single player on and off the field and gave everyone a second home at practices. This past soccer season was the most memorable season in my high school career. Coach Mack was not only a coach, but also like a best friend or an older brother for most of us that we never had. He made the boys soccer program play with heart. His impact that he made in 1 year was incredible. Coach Mack taught us not only soccer, but life lessons. He has given us advice on and off the field. Once I heard he wasn't coming back this season, I was in complete shock and upset. I hope us as a team can bring Coach Mack back. This is my senior year, and my fellow senior players want this season to be one we remember. Without Mack, that would be hard to accomplish. He made such an impact on the whole boys soccer program. Coming to a conclusion, myself and my fellow players wish to have Coach Mack coach our 2020 soccer season. I just want to say that I would like to have my coach back. When I came into soccer my first year of VHS, I was a bit nervous of what was about to come. But when Matt came in, he changed my whole view of the sport in such a good way that I never enjoyed this sport as much as I did this year. He always pushed me to do better and making me a better player. All I ask is if we can have our coach back. Coach Mack, the single greatest coach I've ever played for. Coach Mack can relate to the players on and off the field because he was where we were. Coach Mack shows players how to be a leader amongst ourselves. Coach Mack inspires his players with daily quotes, making us change as a person and not just as a player. Coach Mack isn't just a coach, he's also a leader and a darn good one. Every person he coaches, he respects them. He is always there for us day or night, to being able to help us with soccer problems and or social personal problems. Coach Mack was an amazing coach. Coming up from middle school, he has taught me a lot. He was a professional and knew what he was doing. We lost a lot of players the year before and we tied their record. He had so much planned for this upcoming year, and he was planning on having us play real schools like Dayton schools that push us. He changed the culture of Belvidere soccer, and he also taught us how to be a better person outside of soccer. This past soccer season with Coach Sean McIntyre has completely changed how I play and view the sport of soccer. His leadership during the season truly inspired not only me, but the whole team. He was able to take a group of guys who thought the season was just going to be a joke. Instead, he showed us what we could be and fulfilled that by the end of the season. Hearing the news that my coach would not be returning this upcoming season was devastating. Coach McIntyre was not only able to teach me so much about soccer, but also about life. And then they also included some pictures and some different quotes and examples of the coaching that Coach Mack has done for them. All of which I shared with the board earlier.
Any other public participation?
I do not have anything else.
All right, so we'll close public participation. I would like to personally thank those boys for taking the time to send that information in to us. We will be live next time, so feel free to come and state your case again. It never hurts to be heard. So, all right, anybody have anything else? Okay, motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second. Do we have a second?
Second.
I heard it. All right, I don't have my gavel. Meeting adjourned. Have a nice night, everybody.